The Siblings House Flip Betrayal. My name is Martha Jenkins, and at 62, I thought I'd seen enough of life's twists to know better than to trust blindly. But family? Family's supposed to be different. Or so I believed until my brother Joe turned our parents' legacy into a battlefield. It all started in the quiet hills of rural Georgia, where the air smells like pine and old memories, and where betrayal can hide behind a familiar smile. Our parents, God rest their souls, passed away within a year of each other 5 years ago. Dad went first from a heart attack after a lifetime of farming the land, and Mom followed from what the doctors called a broken heart, but I knew it was the cancer she'd been fighting quietly. They left behind the old farmhouse on 10 acres of rolling fields, a place we'd grown up in, full of creaky floors, faded wallpaper, and stories etched into every beam. It wasn't fancy, but in today's market, with developers eyeing rural land for subdivisions, it was worth a solid $400,000. Maybe more if fixed up right. The will split everything evenly between Joe and me. I was the responsible one, the one who'd moved to Atlanta after high school, got a job as a school teacher, married young, though that didn't last, and saved every penny for retirement. Joe? He was the wild card, always had been. At 58, he was still bouncing from job to job, mostly construction gigs that dried up faster than Georgia clay in summer. He'd served in the Army back in the 90s, came home with a bad knee and a pension that barely covered his bar tabs. No wife, no kids, just a string of bad decisions and a charm that could talk a snake out of its skin. When the probate cleared, Joe called me up, his voice thick with that fake sincerity he pulled out for family favors. "Martha, sis, you know I ain't got nowhere to go. The apartment in Macon kicked me out, some mix-up with the rent. Let me crash at the old place for a bit. I'll fix it up, make it shine. We can sell it down the line, split the profits fair and square. It'll be worth double what it is now." I hesitated. I'd planned to sell it quick and use my half to pad my retirement, maybe buy a little condo by the lake, take those trips to Europe I'd dreamed about since reading about Paris in high school. But Joe was blood. And he was a vet, I couldn't turn my back on that. "All right," I said finally. "But no rent-free forever. You renovate, we sell in a year or two, and we both walk away happy." He moved in that weekend, truck loaded with tools and promises. I sent him $2,000 upfront for supplies, paint, lumber, a new water heater. "Just the basics," he said. Over the next few months, I'd drive down every other weekend from my tiny apartment in Atlanta, bringing groceries and more cash. Another $1,500 for roofing materials. $800 for electrical work. It added up. I kept a ledger, because that's who I am, practical Martha, always tracking the numbers. By the end of the first year, I'd shelled out $10,000 total. My savings dipped, but I told myself it was an investment. Joe sent photos, the porch freshly painted, weeds cleared from the yard. "Looking good, sis," he'd text. But when I visited, things felt off. The house smelled like stale beer, and there were cigarette burns on the kitchen table, our mom's old oak one. "Just had some buddies over to help with the work," Joe shrugged. "No big deal." I let it slide. Family, right? Year 2 rolled in, and the visits got scarcer. My teaching job turned into retirement, forced early by budget cuts at the school district. Suddenly, my modest pension was all I had, and Atlanta rent wasn't cheap. I'd skip meals out, cancel my cable, wear the same coats winter after winter. Meanwhile, Joe asked for more. "Need $500 for plumbing, pipes are shot." I wired it. Generator went out, another $600. Sent. My ledger grew, $12,000 now. $15,000. I started dipping into my 401k, telling myself the house flip would pay it back tenfold. But the photos stopped coming. Calls went to voicemail. When I drove down unannounced one weekend, the place was a wreck. Beer cans littered the yard like fallen soldiers. The porch paint was peeling already, and inside, the living room was cluttered with pizza boxes and ashtrays. Joe was hosting a party, loud music, strangers laughing, smoke hanging thick. "Sis. What a surprise," he slurred, hugging me too hard. "We're celebrating, got the kitchen counters in." The counters were cheap laminate, scratched already. No sign of the granite he'd promised. I confronted him quietly in the hallway. "Joe, this isn't fixing up. This is trashing the place. We need to sell soon." He waved it off. "Relax, Martha. It's a process. Another year, it'll be prime." I left angry but didn't push. What could I do? Evict my own brother? The thought made my stomach turn. By year 3, my patience was threadbare. I'd poured $20,000 into that house, my half of the inheritance essentially vanishing into Joe's black hole. My apartment felt smaller, my dreams farther. I'd signed up for real estate alerts on Zillow and Redfin, just to keep tabs on local values. One night, scrolling through emails, a notification popped, new listing, charming farmhouse on 10 acres, $450,000. The address was ours. The photos? Our house, but staged poorly, with Joe's junk cropped out. Listed by some shady realtor in Macon. My heart pounded. I called Joe immediately. Voicemail. Texted, "What the hell? You listed the house?" No response. I drove down at dawn, fury fueling the 2-hour trip. The house was empty, Joe's truck gone. But the for sale sign was there, bold as brass in the front yard. I stormed inside, I still had a key, and found papers on the kitchen table, a listing agreement signed by Joe, claiming full ownership. Forged signatures, mine, scrawled in his sloppy hand. He'd even notarized it somehow, probably with one of his drinking buddies. Betrayal hit like a freight train. This wasn't just laziness, this was theft. My brother, my blood, trying to steal our parents' legacy right out from under me. I called the realtor first. "This is fraud," I said, voice shaking. "I'm co-owner. Take it down now." She hemmed and hawed, but by afternoon, the listing was pulled. Joe finally called back that evening, sounding cornered. "Martha, listen, I was gonna cut you in. The market's hot, we could have made bank. You forged my name, Joe. That's a crime. It was just to speed things up. You were dragging your feet." We argued for an hour, his excuses piling up like the trash in the yard. "I'm a vet, sis. I need this. The pension ain't enough. You've had 3 years rent-free. I've given you $25,000 by now, counted every cent. And this is how you repay me?" The call ended with him hanging up. I knew then, family or not, this was war. First, I changed the locks. Hired a local locksmith from town, $200, but worth it. Then, I installed security cameras, basic ones from Walmart, another $300. They linked to my phone, so I could watch from Atlanta. Sure enough, Joe showed up 2 days later, pounding on the door. "Martha. Open up. This is my house too." I called from my apartment. "Not anymore. You're evicted. Papers are coming." Eviction wasn't easy in Georgia, especially for family. I hired a lawyer, Ms. Elena Ramirez, a no-nonsense woman from Savannah who'd handled inheritance disputes before. "This is elder abuse territory," she said over coffee in her office. "Financial exploitation. We can get him out and sue for damages." The eviction notice went out certified mail. Joe ignored it, of course. Squatted there like he owned the place. My cameras caught it all, parties raging, strangers crashing on mom's old couch, even a bonfire in the backyard that singed the barn. One night, I watched live as Joe staggered in with a woman, laughing about flipping this dump for big bucks. My blood boiled. But Ms. Ramirez was calm. "Document everything. It'll help in court." The hearing came a month later in the county courthouse, a squat brick building smelling of old paper and desperation. Joe showed up in his army jacket, playing the vet card hard. Your Honor, I've lived there 3 years, poured sweat into it. My sister's just greedy, wants it all for herself. Ms. Ramirez presented my ledger, $28,000 total now, with receipts. Photos of the damage. Camera footage of the parties. The judge, an older man with a thick southern drawl, frowned at Joe. Son, you've had your chance. Eviction granted. 30 days to vacate. Joe exploded outside the courtroom. You bitch. After everything? I served this country. You served yourself, Joe. Get out, or the sheriff hauls you. He left kicking up gravel, but not before smashing a window, caught on cam. That added vandalism charges. With Joe gone, I assessed the damage. The house was a disaster, walls punched in, floors warped from spills, plumbing clogged. Repair estimates? $15,000 minimum. My savings were tapped, I'd have to take a loan. But I rolled up my sleeves. Hired local contractors, honest ones this time. Painted the walls myself on weekends, sanded floors until my knees ached. It took 6 months, but the place shone, fresh white trim, updated kitchen, landscaped yard. Zillow comps put it at $550,000. I listed it with a reputable agent. Offers poured in, developers wanting to subdivide, families seeking rural charm. I accepted $520,000 cash, closing in 30 days. That's when Joe sued. Papers arrived via process server, claim for squatters' rights and adverse possession. Joe argued he'd lived there openly for years, improved the property, lies, and deserved half, or more. His lawyer, some slick-making hack, even claimed I'd abandoned it. Ms. Ramirez laughed when I showed her. This is desperate. Adverse possession in Georgia needs 7 years minimum, and he was there with permission. Plus, we've got footage. The trial was a circus. Joe's side painted me as the heartless sister, kicking out a disabled vet. He testified tearfully, I fixed that place with my own hands. Martha never lifted a finger. Cross-examination was brutal. Ms. Ramirez played the camera clips, Joe admitting on video, "Screw Martha, I'll sell this and keep it all." The jury gasped. Joe's face crumpled. His lawyer stammered objections, but the damage was done. We won handily. Judge awarded me full proceeds, plus $10,000 in damages from Joe for the repairs. He couldn't pay, of course, bankrupt from his lifestyle. Last I heard, he was crashing on friends' couches, pension garnished. With the $520,000, minus fees and taxes, netting $450,000, I donated half, $225,000, to a veterans charity in Atlanta. It helped guys like Joe, but the real ones, not the users. Felt right, honored Dad's service without rewarding betrayal. The other half? I bought a used RV, a cozy Winnebago with all the bells. Loaded it up and hit the road, Smoky Mountains, Grand Canyon, California coast. For the first time, I was free, no ledger, no guilt, just the open highway. Joe called once, months later, begging forgiveness. "Sis, I messed up. Can I crash in the RV?" I hung up. Family's what you make it, and mine starts with me now. If you liked my story, consider donating to veterans causes. What would you do in my place? Share in the comments, I'd love to hear. And where did you hear this? For more tales of triumph over betrayal, subscribe and like. Until next time.